Hello, my name's Gary Crockett. I'm the Health and Housing Manager for East Suffolk Council. My job is to reduce the impact that poor housing has on the health of its occupants. I'm going to talk to you today about some grants that are available for residents of Suffolk, both for landlords and for their tenants and owner-occupiers as well. We're fortunate in Suffolk that we have a single point of contact for all energy efficiency questions, issues and grants. It can be a confusing landscape and there's a lot of information out there. The great thing about Warm Homes Healthy People is it's a single point of contact for people to approach with any housing or energy related issues they might have. We then match and signpost those households with the available grants. I'm public health funded and Warm Homes Healthy People is an initiative to reduce excess winter deaths. In Suffolk we have between 300 to 500 excess winter deaths a year, and unfortunately for each death there are on average 7 hospital admissions. So a big part of my role and the team's role is to reduce the impact that fuel poverty has on the health of those with long-term health conditions. As I mentioned, it can be a confusing landscape, but we're here to help. Any questions can come to us and we'll do our best to provide an answer. Another apology that there are a lot of acronyms, but I'll go through them one by one and hopefully make things clear. So this is a screen which shows you the range of support available. I've started with the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero's HUG fund. That's a fund worth £8 million over 2 years. The Energy Company Obligation is another fund available nationwide. And the Great British Insulation Scheme is another offer that we have access to. I'll explain each of those in turn. And lastly, I'll finish on some general Warm Homes Healthy People support, because it's more than energy efficiency and financial support, but also about the extra value we can add in terms of loan heaters, onward referrals and other support. So starting with HUG, the biggest filter initially for our processes and our admin team at the moment is the gas status of the property. HUG needs properties to be off the gas grid. For us, off the gas grid doesn't just mean off the physical gas grid. It means that gas is not the primary source of heating for the property. So these are properties which are electrically heated, have solid fuel or perhaps oil. The property might still have an electric or I should say a gas oven, or use gas for 1 or 2 odd gas heaters around the property, but gas is not the primary source of heating. If the property has a gas central heating, HUG is not for that property. The property needs to have an EPC of D, E, F or G. And in terms of financial situations and financial eligibility, the property must have a household annual income of £36,000 a year or less. That has been recently increased from £31,000. Another way they can qualify is to be in an area of deprivation or in indices of multiple deprivation, IMD, decile 1 to 3, so the 30% most deprived. Additionally, for HUG, having a long-term health condition can be a route to eligibility, so doctors, nurses, physios and OTs can write a letter to say my patient has a long-term health condition which is worsened by cold, and that alone is a route to eligibility, which means that households over 36,000 could potentially be eligible for the fund. In terms of tenure, owner-occupiers, dependent on the measures, the works are fully funded with no contribution required. For those privately renting, the landlord must not only agree to the process, but also contribute 1/3 of the costs of the works. So to give you an example, the average HUG grant is predicted to be £18,000, so the landlord would have to contribute approximately £6,000. In addition, we can't help homeowners with more than 4 properties, and that includes a partner or someone the landlord is married to. So if each partner has 2 properties, that would mean they aren't eligible for the HUG fund for their tenants. What can HUG help with? It can help with clean heat. Because the fund is from DESNZ, the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, they don't want to put any fossil fuel heating in. So air source heat pumps is the only heating availability. We can also help with renewable energy, such as solar panels, and your typical wall insulation, your room and roof and your loft insulation. More information can be found on the webpage, warmhomesuffolk.org, where you can also find a communications kit with some promo material and other information. Next, ECO4. ECO stands for the Energy Company Obligation. Eco4 is aimed at increasing the EPC of properties. The EPC is the Energy Performance Certificate, rated A to G, A being the best, G being the worst. Eco is aimed at increasing those lower E, F and Gs to C and above. Ideally with Eco4 you want to increase through the bands, and to do that normally or typically a heating and insulation intervention is necessary. So for a property just needing a loft top up, it's usually not the way to go, but there's another fund which might be more suitable, which I'll talk about next. Normally no landlord contributions are required, but the funding calculations for Eco are quite complex, so I would recommend you engage with an Eco improved installer who are used to doing those calculations. It's very bespoke to the property, what they need, how big the property is. To be eligible for Eco4, again, health alone is a route to being eligible. Also, there is a financial route, so household income under £31,000. I anticipate we'll increase the 31 to 36 to be in line with the current HUG guidance of £36,000. You can find a statement of intent online in the link on the slide. This shows how we deliver Eco4 in Suffolk and what our own unique criteria are. Eco4 can help with fossil fuels, as I mentioned earlier, as well as renewable heating systems and your typical loft and wall and room and roof insulation. Next, we've got the Great British Insulation Scheme. This is quite a simple scheme. It's single measures of insulation, which you can see on the screen now, your range of insulation from loft to cavity. There are two routes to eligibility. So there's a low-income group, your typical means-tested benefits, including universal credit, guaranteed pension credit, and income support. And the general group is those with a low EPC, an EPC of D to G. Lastly, council tax bands A to D are required to be eligible. And again, a financial contribution may be needed depending on the measures and the EPC uplift from the measures identified. Lastly, on to general support that Warm Homes Healthy People can provide. I think the biggest offer from our point of view is that we can deliver free home energy efficiency surveys to anyone in Suffolk on low income who perhaps isn't sure if their loft insulation is up to scratch, if they've got damp and mould they'd like looked at, or they'd like to apply for one of the grants I've already mentioned. As I said earlier, we're very good at matching need with the support and grants available. On our survey, we'll talk about some income maximisation, we'll talk about debt, we'll talk about heating and energy, behavioural advice, switching supplier, and more. In addition, we help with loan heaters, so I work with Ipswich and West Suffolk Hospital to reduce anyone whose discharge could be delayed by not having heating. We can lend people radiators on a temporary basis. We can also offer free draft proofing for windows and doors, your foam, your loft hatch pillows, your panels for the back of your radiators. We try and make every contact count, so while we primarily deal with energy efficiency and insulation and heating, we also make onward referrals to other partners such as fire and befriending schemes. Thank you for your time.